Cozy season is coming up, and today I'm going to show you some autumn-inspired crafts and hobbies to romanticize the season and create some beautiful DIYs in the process. Hi everyone, and welcome to another Around the Year video. I'm Maggie, and today I have a collection of cozy and aesthetic autumn crafts for you that are going to awaken the Pinterest girly inside of us and bring us into a proper autumn mood. All of these little DIY projects are really simple to make, so without any further ado, let's get going. By the way, I've also just done a little autumn reset, which mainly just means adding pumpkins to my space, and I've also sat down and created an autumn bucket list in my journal to keep track of all of the nice little things that I want to do this season. I've decided to go a little bit more scrapbooky with this page than with the other spreads I usually do in my journal. So scrapbooking, for instance, is one thing that you might try, especially during the colder and darker seasons, because that is just a very relaxing and cozy activity to do, especially also with some hot chocolate or some nice music in the background. Another thing you could try to do this season, especially if you're a fan of vintage vibes or better yet Jane Austen novels, is to write letters and actually seal them. And of course, usually you would be using wax to create the seals, but you can also use hot glue, and especially glitter hot glue sticks can give you some very cute designs. If you want to make a stock of seals and use them for different projects, you can bulk create them on parchment paper. Since hot glue is not as shiny as wax, you can take a permanent marker. Black or gold works really nicely for this, and lightly brush it over the design to create some contrast. And tying into that, here is how to fold a letter the Jane Austen way, meaning that you don't need an envelope. Bring the two short sides of the page towards the center, and then fold the bottom edge up and the top edge down, overlapping the edges slightly like so. And now you can add your seal. If you want to use one of the seals that we've just pre-made, you can just glue it on with more hot glue, or if you want to go for a more authentic and vintage look, you can use sealing wax directly on the envelope. While we're still on the topic of glitter hot glue, you can also slide a template underneath your parchment paper, and here I'm just tracing the outlines of some autumn leaves to use for a garland. By the way, I have a template for that, which is free for my channel members, so check the link in the description to find out more. For my garland, I've also gathered some pine cones in the woods, and I'm going to attach them to some thread, alternating them with my hot glue leaves to form a garland. This next project I've seen on Pinterest, and honestly it's so cute. We're going to create some pumpkin decorations using toilet rolls and wool. And you're going to cut a piece of your toilet roll depending on roughly how big you want your pumpkin to be. Your pumpkin will end up a little bit shorter than the actual cardboard piece that you cut. Wrap the thread around the toilet roll like so. Secure the ends with a little knot that you're going to hide inside the pumpkin, and then we're going to pinch the top and bottom edges of your pumpkin to the inside and bend them down to create a round pumpkin shape. Lastly, you're just going to take a little stick and pop it in the center, and your pumpkins are done. I have one more pumpkin craft for you, and that is actually to crochet little pumpkin keychains or coasters. For our crochet pumpkins, we're going to start with 5 chain stitches that we're going to join to a circle using a slip stitch. And then we're going to add a row of double crochets on top of that. And we're going to start that row with 2 chain stitches, and then we can go ahead and add our double crochets. And since it's a circular pattern, we're going to need 10 double crochets. And then you're going to move on and add a row of trebles on top of that. And to prep our row, we'll need 3 chain stitches, and we're going to alternate between 1 treble and 2 trebles per stitch in the previous row. So you should end up with 15 trebles. Now for the fun part, to actually shape the pumpkin. We're again going to start our next row with 3 chain stitches again, and we're going to continue with alternating 1 treble and 2 trebles into each previous stitch until we get around halfway around the pumpkin, and secure them to the previous row with a slip stitch. Move 1 stitch, add another slip stitch into the next stitch to create a little gap in the row, and then restart your trebles with another 3 chain stitches, and then continue crocheting trebles around until you get to the bottom, and leave a 1 stitch wide gap by finishing your row early, again using 3 chains. I hope that makes sense. We're then going to slip stitch our way up the next row, again starting with 3 chain stitches and then alternating 2 trebles and 1 treble per stitch until we get to the gap. Finish with 3 chain stitches and work your way over to the other side of the gap, and start your row again using 3 chain stitches and crochet trebles until you get to the end. Securely fasten off your thread and add a little stem using contrasting wool. Those are just going to be chain stitches attached to the top of our pumpkin. Depending on the size you make these in, you can use them as keychains, coasters, or you can make a whole bunch of them and use them as a garland. And knitting and crochet in general is a great craft to take up during the autumn and winter months. Another great idea to try is watercolor leaf prints. So for that you're going to need some leaves, and you're going to apply watercolors onto the flat side of the leaves. It's not the side where the little veins pop up, but the flatter side. And then you're going to use that as a stamp to print onto some paper, which I then glued to a little antique sheet music background and added it to a frame like so. And of course, no autumn craft video would be complete without at least one type of candle jar. For this particular candle jar, all you need are sticks and some thread or ribbon of your choice, and we're going to place a rubber band around the jar and stick our sticks around it, like so. The rubber band is going to temporarily secure the sticks in place, and then we'll wrap our thread or ribbon around the jar to secure them permanently, like so. And that is your candle jar finished. For our last project, the felt bookmark, you'll need a base fabric of your choice and cut that to the desired shape. I'm just going to cut them into a little tag shape like so. And I'm going to add a little toadstool design using white and red felt that I'm going to stitch down. I'm going to secure the red part using French knots and white thread, and that will give me the little white dots. We're going to add a ribbon of your choice to the top, and our bookmarks are finished. So we've got 2 beautiful versions of the same idea here. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like down below, and I will see you next time.